Well, hi kids. I'm glad you could join me. This is kind of a painful topic, but I have to be honest. Your ChatGPT novel is just terrible. And I don't even have a script for this. Well, to be honest, I wrote a lot of script for this. I wrote like 4 scripts for this, and I'm not sure that a ChatGPT novel deserves an honest response or even a measured response. I'm gonna try, but I gotta get this off my chest, otherwise it's just gonna clog me up forever. So I tried unsuccessfully to write some scripts on this topic, and I don't think that I can say anything more profound than just watching other people's videos about making a ChatGPT novel and actually just taking a screen grab of some of the text that's supposedly going into their novel and some of the nonsense that they're saying to justify doing this. I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-anything except stupid. I'm anti-stupid and I'm anti-lazy. Which is why I'm not rich, because I don't take advantage of stupid people in the laziest way. I think that ChatGPT, like everyone else, I've been playing with it. It's been fun. It's not as fun as 11 Labs voice cloning, which is what I seem to be using ChatGPT for most. I've tried to get it to write some code. And, I'm not a coder, so any level of ChatGPT giving me input above my level sounds okay. But I am a writer. Like, I've been writing, I've been published. I don't take it seriously. It's not my job. But I know how to write, and I know what good writing is, and I've studied writing, and, I do have writing groups, and, I do feel like it keeps my brain agile and thinking and critical and creative. And I do write for my own benefit, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm like, some pulp novelist who's churning out chum for mass consumption. I don't know why anyone would have that goal. Authors don't make money. Books don't make money. Yeah. Like, you should just be capitalizing on lightning in a thimble, because this is just crazy talk. All right, I did try to, light a candle in the dark, so to speak. Like, I tried to, before I made this video, explaining why your ChatGPT novel is just a bad idea, I went ahead and made a tutorial for ink. It's a pretty basic tutorial. It's actually very much a getting started tutorial for the ink story engine system. Because while I think that AI generation is fun, I think that its place is kind of as a surface, a veneer, a stylization. But ChatGPT is terrible at structure. It has no structure. And I know that we just got ChatGPT 4 that is supposed to give us, like, some huge amount of coherent memory. I will believe it when I see it. Kids, ChatGPT is like an office product. I mean, it's so appropriate that it's being handled by Microsoft now. This is like Word. It's like Excel. This is something to help you finish an email, to help you finish a report, to help you finish work. writing work for hire. I don't see the benefit of pretending to write a bad story or bad creative writing with an AI. Like, okay, so I had so many versions of this script, and like, here's one of them. Okay, just I have notes. I'll consult them briefly. Maybe I'll pretend that it's some sort of a numbered list. Here's my opening note. Like, I have to explain why people write creatively. And then my note, I have one word, duh. And then below that, I have like, here's my counter argument. Why are people posers? And another single word, duh. This is false validation. This is what AI is for. This is why AI is going to make $1 billion, is because it's false validation. This is blowing smoke up your ass. Kids, if I told the AI to go to the gym for me and do a workout, and the AI went to the gym and did a workout, while I sat on my ass at home getting flabby and having a heart attack, I don't get bragging rights for going to the gym because I sent the AI to the gym. It should be kind of obvious, right? That should be obvious. So you don't get creative bragging rights for writing a novel. And I'm sorry, that's like the only reason to write a novel is for the creative bragging rights. That's the only little gold medal you get at the end. There's no pot of gold at the end of that writing rainbow. There's no bag of money. The best that you get is bragging rights for having completed something, a challenge, like climbing Mount Everest. There's no purpose to it. It's a personal challenge that you set yourself. Can I personally reach this goal? And then you get an AI to do it for you. You are a lazy fuck. I don't need to tell you this. I don't need a video essay to tell you that you're a lazy fuck letting ChatGPT write a bunch of text and then you pretending that was a novel. First of all, like, these people I write, they get bored after copy pasting out ChatGPT, and their so-called novel is like 6,000 words. That's not a novel. That's not a novel. All right, here's, am I even numbering these? Here's number 2. Or dub in another number if I actually reorder these. The pretext that your ChatGPT story is for children. I have such a violent reaction to this one. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's not for children. No. This is your ego, dude. I know I just skipped to the end there, but again, this is like such obvious stuff. Why are you dumping your garbage ego stroke that was written by an AI onto a child? Children don't need to be props in your narcissistic, lazy fantasy. Children just want human attention and sincere love, but really attention. And that's all they need. They don't need your crap filler book. Kids know when they're getting bogus content. They know when something's bad. This is you saying that your ChatGPT novel is for children is like you only playing the first level of Mario. It's the easiest level, and you just keep repeating it because you suck and you know it. And that's why you aim so low. This is why pickup artists only try to date virgins, because they're insecure and really bad at sex, and they know it. So when your ChatGPT novel is written for alleged children, it's because you're afraid of criticism, and you know that you're aiming low, because this crap would never pass the muster of your own peers. it wouldn't pass the muster of yourself. So stop. You're a coward, and you're reaching for what you think is the lowest hanging fruit, and you just need to stop. First of all, these aren't even your children. If you want to treat your children like a compost heap, receiving your cast-off experiments and ego stroking, that's your legacy. And don't push your performative crap onto other people's children. Stop. Stop. Not to mention that children's book market is like cutthroat, and you're kidding yourself if you think that that's how that works. Okay, number 3. Assuming I'm still doing this numbered list thing. Copyright. AI works are uncopyrightable. If a human is not the author, the work doesn't get a copyright. That's the ruling, and it's been that ruling since the Copyright Office began, and they're really consistent about it, and they keep putting out like updates in this AI generation, and it hasn't changed. It's the same policy. They have not changed their policy now that AI exists. Now, I know that most people who are on YouTube are probably like, under 30, under 35, and you have no idea how copyright works because an entire generation was robbed of copyrights, terminating, and moving creative works into the public domain. Now, this is the core idea of a copyright, is a human's creative idea. Okay? An animal cannot get a copyright of their creative work. I'm not saying that an animal can't be creative. I'm not qualified to really judge that. And, I watch as many cat videos pushing those little buttons and talking to their people. And I know how reality television works, and they're editing out a lot of stuff that the cat said that was gibberish. I know this works. I fall into my own, wishful thinking. I would love to just watch a show where a cat sits there and hits the buttons, and I would not know if they were hitting the right buttons, but then 11 Labs makes this cat say whatever. It could say Shakespeare, and I'd be like, I am entertained. But somehow when you do it, and you just hit a bunch of buttons in ChatGPT, and then that story comes out, I'm like, Yes, my standards are a little different for a human being. That's how the Copyright Office works. Standards are a little different for a human being. It's easy to be like kind of impressed when, ChatGPT does something that's sort of vaguely impressive. And as long as you don't hit the button a few more times and get like virtually the same pattern out again and again, that kind of tarnishes it when you see that it's sort of, working off a template and a pattern. But that first time, and you have that spark of like, ooh, okay. But if I thought a human wrote that, I would not be impressed. Like if a cat wrote that, I'd be impressed. So that's kind of how copyright works. We have a different standard for human beings than for animals and AI. So this is how copyright works. The public domain doesn't really exist. That's like the default. That's like normal public domain. So if something just happens, if your glass falls off the table and makes a splash on the floor, that's public domain. Okay? There was no consciousness behind that creative act. It might look like art, You might have an art reaction. Art is in the beholder, and a little bit of presentation. There's some P.T. Barnum behind art. In reality, people kind of have to be primed to see the art, and then once they're primed, they start seeing art everywhere. So, there's a little bit of a game to it, a little bit of a flim-flam game to it, but supposing that water just falls off the table and makes some kind of artistic splatter. Okay, the glass of water does not get a copyright, right? Because there was no consciousness behind. Okay. That's public domain, just by default. So the exception is if I sat there and splattered water intentionally, as moronic as it sounds, I could get a copyright because I have a creative intent. Even though the results might be more or less looking the same. It's 50-50 whether the beholder will view that as art. But glass of water falling off the table does not get a copyright. Me sitting there doing the creative work, I get a copyright because I'm a human being. I'm sorry, the world is unfair. Unfair to AI and cats, but this is how copyright gets. So copyright is the exception. And it doesn't last forever, right? So I get a copyright on my creative work, X number of years. It's until I die, plus 90 fucking million years. It didn't used to be that long. That's why you don't know how copyright works, because there used to be like novels that were still relevant, still in the public mind. And they would fall into public domain and people could interpret them. They became part of our human culture. I knew I would just go off on a tangent and try to explain what creativity and humans and novels are. Let's get back to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is randomizing. Remember Stable Diffusion? Same thing. It's randomizing. Just randomizing. Now, I know that OpenAI Playground has some settings that you can dial down or turn off the heat. What is it? The heat? Where do they come up with these adjectives? And that's supposed to be more creativity. The salsa. The sizzle. I can come up with better marketing terms than Microsoft. All right. The whole point is, it kind of doesn't matter if ChatGPT is trained ethically or not trained ethically. When I say it doesn't matter, I mean it's moot. Because whatever it outputs is not copyrightable. And AI did it. Yeah, I know. I hear you. You're arguing with me. You're saying like, but ChatGPT was listed as a source, attribution, in a court case. Okay. You can list it as an attribution. That's not creative writing. That's not creative writing. Only humans get to be creative. That's how it works. And if you choose not to be creative, that's your own dumb fault. Okay? So, really, this should be the end of the debate right there. You cannot copyright anything that ChatGPT spits out. The end. Do you think that you saved a bunch of time copy pasting a ChatGPT novel out of ChatGPT and then publishing it on Amazon Kindle? You know what I could do? I could save even more time. I just copy your entire novel and I'll put that up. And I didn't have to touch ChatGPT. I just ripped you off because what you published was uncopyrightable. And you've got no recourse. Boo-hoo for you. Don't you look like a chump hitting that button all those times in ChatGPT and fighting with ChatGPT when I could just steal your stupid ChatGPT. I wouldn't do that because I have taste. Well, I might do it under a pseudonym if it was profitable. I I understand coloring books are like super profitable right now, according to YouTube. Y'all, y'all. I go up and down with this AI. Up and down. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Doesn't fit neatly in a box. You know what? I use ChatGPT to try to code. And when I understand the code, like I'm asking ChatGPT a trick question, like, ChatGPT, code this for me. Like, I don't know how to code it, but I do know how to code it, right? All right, so then it spits it out, and this back to the, like, did a cat write this? I'm impressed. Because, you know, when the AI spits it out, I'm like, well, that's not bad, and I can see how to string that back together. Because my coding skill is like an 8, and ChatGPT's coding skill is like a 6. Which isn't the worst. But, you know, I have the coding skills of an 8, so I can just add the little extras. I can string it together. I know what's missing, and I can connect the dots for ChatGPT. But suppose my coding skill is a 4 or a 3, and ChatGPT gives me code that's a 6. Well, I'm having a Dunning-Kruger effect because I don't know what I don't know. And, well, it seems pretty impressive. Well, if you're not creative, if you're dumb as a stump, if you're a turnip, if you're a potato head, I just, you know, and you're really pompous and a poser, and you really want to get credit for being creative, but you just have no creative brain cells to rub together, okay. You're at a 2 creatively, and ChatGPT is at a 5 or a 6. Again, impressive for a cat. But you think it's writing like amazing stuff. It's not. Anyone with a reading level of like a 7 or 8 or a 9 or a 10 is just embarrassed for you. Okay, so AI is for stupid people, to make them feel important and smart. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's a thing. It's a thing. I judge all the time. Not lying. Not going to lie. I'm judging. I'm judging that you would let the AI do your creative work. I just think that's moronic. But there you go. All right. Let me get a little bit specific. Just a little bit specific if you're still here. ChatGPT is just the wrong tool for the job, okay? I think it does have good aspects to it. I'm exploring those aspects. I think a lot of us are exploring those aspects to it. It's not going to replace creative thought. ChatGPT works really well if you feed it a template. It's kind of image to image. Give it something that it can like kind of doodle on top of, but the structure is already there. I'm impressed, okay? This is a nice little, it fills in, okay? Like icing on the cake. But it's not the cake. It's not the cake. You still gotta bake the cake. It looks more polished with the icing on top, but if that's just a cardboard box under some icing, nobody's gonna be impressed. You got an icing factory. You don't have a cake. Okay, so ChatGPT cannot give you a story. It is trained on dialogue, chat. It's in the name. It's trained on Twitter. There are no stories on Twitter. Yes, I know you think that there's a few stories on Twitter, and some people are creative enough to, you know, get through that format, but you're pretending that ChatGPT knows the good versus the bad. And nah, that's not how that works. ChatGPT is great at translations, at summarizations. Again, there is a structure underneath that you're feeding it. You're feeding it a template and letting ChatGPT doodle on top of it, and that seems to work really well. There's a strength there. That's the opposite of creative writing. Okay? That's not creative writing. I know there's authors who run around and say, I don't plan a thing. I don't believe in structure. I just sit in front and it just spews out of me like I'm like sweat glands. That's creativity. Well, you know what, honey? That book is bad too. I didn't make a video about it, but it's bad too because it has no structure and it goes nowhere. And when I was in my 20s, I read a lot of these books and I just finally hit a wall. I was like, this is just moronic. This is just whatever's off the top of your mind, which is more or less usually some sex fantasy and some really dumb, obvious like cliches. And because you're in the moment of it, you think it's like real deep and honest and personal, but when you step back, it's pretty average. You think a cat couldn't write a story about, you know, whatever it's thinking that day, which is bites and food and being annoying and being a little pet? That would be an entertaining story, but again, that's a cat. All right, so honing in on what's the problem with ChatGPT. There's a lack of structure. I think that's evident. A lack of structure. And lack of coherent structure. Well, there is no structure without coherent structure. There's no such thing as incoherent structure. That's not a structure, or that's deliberately astructural, and it's not a good thing. Don't try to get ahead of me. You know what? ChatGPT is great. Filler, and marketing speak. That's the opposite of creative writing. Filler, marketing speak. Have you ever read OpenAI's website? I'm going to put a link up here in the corner. I did a video with Lynn Fusion, or whatever she's calling herself these days. Lynn Collision. Lynn Explosion. And I kind of broke down OpenAI's website, which was clearly written by an AI, because it's just circular nonsense. It's just a masterclass in marketing wank. You know what they were doing? They were trying to sell to Microsoft, and they knew that Microsoft was not going to read the whole website, and knew that investors would just surface read. Okay, that's not what novels do. No one just surface reads a novel. No. No. You're like the moron that can't afford Comme des Garçons, but you'll wear a Comme des Garçons t-shirt, like a white t-shirt with the word Comme des Garçons on it. You understand what I'm saying? You're not wearing haute couture. You're wearing a t-shirt with a brand name on it. That's not style. That's just you were rooked, hun. You were a fool that lost your money. That's what that is. Alright, so ChatGPT is based on surface, chatter, marketing speak, filler. So put in the underlying structure and you might have a good thing. I put together an ink tutorial because I think, maybe, I'm still exploring it, that I can do my creative template in a generative ink project, and that output could be directed to ChatGPT to get the stylizations on top, especially dialogue and chatter. And to me that looks kind of promising. Well, it solves the coherency problem. So here I want to go to the next ChatGPT pet peeve, and this is in no order, and obviously I don't really have the script. I have some notes. everything a ChatGPT writes, it's supposed to be some kind of creative thing. It does what I call cul-de-sac conflicts. And this is just lazy. So you got ChatGPT, which is a lazy solution in the first place, being lazy, and you got, oh, it sticks out. It looks lazy. It's bad. Now, cul-de-sac conflict is you're driving down the highway in the open road, and you're trying to get to the end of that story, and you're picking up speed, and then ChatGPT just pulls the car over and parks in somebody's driveway, but then immediately backs out of that driveway, and you get back on the road. Now, there was some little conflict introduced that made ChatGPT, your car metaphor, drive off the highway and just pull up into that driveway, into that cul-de-sac, and it didn't really go anywhere, and it was about a sentence because it's instantly reversed, and you pull back out of that. And ChatGPT does this constantly. This is one of its horrible patterns, like the worst pattern that it does. In fact, I had a note here that it's like it'll write your character flaw as somebody banging around in my apartment. Go away. I'm going to have to edit this, which I hate doing. Alright, so this is another problem with coherency, in that ChatGPT has been trained, because this is one of its patterns, it just does it constantly. Within 2 sentences, it will introduce some fake conflict and then nullify it. Again and again and again. And I called it Buddy Had a Short Dick syndrome, because this is like ChatGPT's idea of inventing conflict. And it's like, what? It's so non sequitur. Like, what? La la la, you're reading like someone's biography, da 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 da, this is a great important person, cured cancer, and then ChatGPT throws in, Buddy had a short dick. And you're just like, was that going somewhere? No, because the very next sentence is, but he got over it. That's ChatGPT for you. Buddy had a short dick, but he got over it. That's not conflict. That's not anything. That's a non sequitur. That's stupid. Trust me, when you start seeing that pattern, you will see it again and again and again. Once you learn the stupid patterns that ChatGPT is doing to fool you into thinking that there was some sort of a conflict there and a resolution, no. No, it was just a stupid non sequitur. It lasted about a sentence, 2 maybe at the most. That's not conflict. That's not a story. That's just filler. That's nonsense. You're being tricked. Alright, so that kind of goes into another little kind of pet peeve, that ChatGPT really falls into repeating patterns. And once you prompt a little too long, you really start to see the pattern. And I see this with Stable Diffusion too, and I know that they're not really quite metaphors for each other, but you know, coming off one visual AI and its repetitive patterns and kind of mistakes that looked really impressive at first until you really got used to seeing what they were. You know, and yes, there's an evolution fixing a lot of Stable Diffusion's pattern problems, you know, like being able to now, with ControlNet and with other models, you don't have to have this like awful MySpace looking high contrast imagery. You can actually get like, you know, a better photographic range. Well, ChatGPT is not there yet. I know that you can train your own models. I have not seen it done successfully. I'm waiting. And I'm trying it myself. So I think that pushing this template idea might be able to cure some of the patternization, but not if you rely on plots. Oh. ChatGPT does not know what a theme is. It does not know what characters are, not with any depth. And like I said, ChatGPT's idea of characterization is "buddy had a short dick" syndrome, where it's just like one sentence of like, they were sad and lonely, but it was fine because they continued with their life and were super successful. It doesn't make any sense. There's already a lot of bad patternization in writing, in entertainment writing. There's Hero's Stupid Journey. There's 3-act structure. There's Save the Cat, which honestly I don't hate Save the Cat because it actually gives like, it's kind of more Douglas Sirk-ization of Hollywood. Like these things actually work, but but like Hero's Journey doesn't work. That's like the stupidest. It's such a one-note story. It's very not a monomyth. You'd have to be literally stunted and never have read any good stories in your life to think that Hero's Journey is like some sort of monomyth template for all stories. You're an idiot. I think that's going to be my takeaway for this whole video is the world doesn't need more bad novels. The world doesn't need more bad writers. And ChatGPT right now is a low, mediocre writer. And if you're really stupid and you've never thought about this in your life, I'm sure you're impressed because it's hitting better than you are. But if you've done this for like any amount of personal growth time, then you just the limitations are glaring in your face. I think that's true with Stable Diffusion too. If you have no experience, if you have no training, if you have no, I'm avoiding the word talent because people think talent is like something magic that emerges from your genetics or something. It's not. Skill is the word. If you have no skill, because skill is something you have to actually work and develop, you're a rube, hun. You're easily impressed. You're going to think this is better than it is. You're also have the caveat of knowing that a cat wrote this novel, and that is more impressive than an actual human adult male writing this novel who should know better. So if you are a 2 or a 3 on the moron scale, and the AI is like a 4 or 5 on the moron scale, I know there's this like big fear that the AI is going to replace like workers and artists and authors, and you know who's going to replace? The ones that already do it badly, and there's plenty of them, more of them where they came from. So this is just going to be like a big litter layer in our culture. The world doesn't need your ChatGPT novel. But, you know, the world doesn't need your bad novel. If I'm being honest, the world doesn't need your novel. And if we keep going down that road, the world doesn't need you. I'm not sure how much more reductive it can get. Kids, back in the 90s, I saw the movie The Matrix in the theater. And there's a line in that movie, you know, it's all dystopian and dark and fashionable, and we're all like, wow. And then there's a line in the movie where the AIs, evil AIs, were using human beings for batteries. And people in the audience laughed. They laughed out loud. And that was not a comedy moment. But that line was so ridiculous that we laughed out loud. And that wasn't that long ago. And here you are, publishing ChatGPT's stupid novel on Kindle. You're the battery, dude. You're the battery. You're the and then my friend send me these like videos of like these like neckbeards talking about how AI is going to end the world in the Armageddon. Armageddon. And they're so stupid. It's the same old religion story about the end of the world, and they're just slapping a new AI logo on it because these guys aren't creative at all. Oh, and their whole premise is ChatGPT the end of the world? And then like the guest host will be like, not yet. And then they're like, well, when is the end of the world? And then the guest host is like, soon. And then the hosts are like, tell us more about the end of the world, Grandpa. And then Neckbeard tells them about the end of the world, and his idea is that the AGI, the artificial general intelligence, is gonna download a virus into a viral maker, and it's gonna push the button, it's gonna make this distribute. No, it's not. It's just gonna tell some moron human being to do it, and the moron human being is gonna go do it. We're already there. We're there already. You're ending the world. Your ChatGPT novel is so bad, it's ending the world. That's why you need to stop. That's why you need to quit that and just don't do it. We're not impressed. And I've already stolen your ChatGPT novel and published it again under a silly pseudonym. And I'm stealing your money and I'm stealing your audience. I can't think of anything else to say. There's just no redeeming qualities to your ChatGPT novel. Just stop it.